Okay. So we are also recording the session now, and let's start or let's begin with what PowerShell really is. We said what is the need of PowerShell yesterday is that if let's say you get a task or let's say if you get a requirement to go ahead and let's say create one storage account, it's easy for you to go ahead into the portal and directly create it from the portal out there. But let's say if you have 20 different storage accounts to be created under which you have 20 containers in each to be created, then the amount of time it takes to actually go ahead and create that is a lot. In order to reduce it, we need some kind of an automation, like some kind of, let's say, an automated script that can run in the backend, which can help us to reduce this time so that we can, focus upon something else, right? So that's where PowerShell as a programming language comes into picture. Now, the very first thing that I want you all to do just is like, as and when you load the screen, you will be seeing something like this. This is a white screen out here, but you'll be seeing a blue screen, something like this. When you just start up your PowerShell for the first time on your computer, you'll see a blue screen, something like this. Now, this is the output console. Now, whatever that you write or whatever script that you kind of execute, the output will be displayed here. Now, this is called as the output console. And if I drag my mouse slightly a bit, this is the split screen what PowerShell really offers out here. So unlike a CMD that comes in your computers where you can just type in programs, PowerShell comes with an editor out here where you can write your program here, you can format your programs here, and then you can see the output in the blue screen down here. Okay. So the very first thing that I'd like to start with PowerShell is that each and every software, right? Like PowerShell is also a software that comes pre-installed with Windows operating system. I did not go ahead and install this out. Every software has a version, right? Every software has some kind of a version attached to it. So how do I check the version of PowerShell that is installed on my machine, or what is the PowerShell version that I am using out here? Is that the command for this is $ps version table. So $ps meaning $PowerShell version table out here. And how do I execute this? Do I enter? So if I enter, I come down to the line 2, it won't get executed. So if I just want to execute this particular line number 1, my cursor is at line number 1 right now. I'll need to click on this particular button. I need to click on that particular button on my screen, which says run selection, meaning this will only select or this will only run where your cursor is, or this will only run the command where your cursor really is. For example, my cursor right now is on line number 1. It will only execute that particular line number 1. You can also do a function F8 or just an F8 key on your keyboard to just run this out. So that's the shortcut. Or you can just come here, put your cursor here, and then click on this particular button, which will only run that particular selection out here. So let's do that. So what I'm doing is that I'm just putting my cursor here at line number 1, and I'm just running this out. And right now, it just gave me an entire information out here. But the thing that I'm really interested in this is this. The PS version is 5.1 something like this. Now, for us to use PowerShell along with Azure and etc., because that's what we'll be looking in classes that are coming forward, the version of your PowerShell that should be installed or that should be on your computer should be greater than 5.1, greater than or equal to 5.1. Like anything after 5.1, I'm okay, but 5.1 should be the minimum version that we need to interact with PowerShell. Now, in any Windows 10 system, like any Windows 10, 8, 7, whatever you're using, when you run PowerShell, this will be the minimum version that will come by default. So you don't have to install, you don't have to do anything separately. Okay? So this is the minimum version of PowerShell that actually comes into picture. So this is what PowerShell version we are talking about. Now, second thing is that let's say if you want to print something, meaning in all our college days when we start with programming language, the one thing that we start with is hello world, right? So how do you type in hello world or how do you type in something like this is that in order to type something, meaning in order to print something on the output console, you'll have to do a write hyphen host. When you do a write hyphen host, I am telling to print something or I'm telling to type something. For example, I'm doing a write hyphen host space in quotes. I am passing something like hello world. And if I want to execute this, then what is the command here, guys? How do I execute it? Sorry, F8. Yes, F8, or you can directly come here and click this button out here. And it says, okay, fine. This is hello world out here. Let's say if I want to change the color of the output, I am not liking the color of the output because here you're getting two things out here. One, the actual command that is getting executed. Two, the output that is coming in the bottom screen. So I want to make sure that the output is different than what the input that I'm passing on right now. So if I want to change the color out here, I'll say hyphen foreground color. So I'm giving a space to the same command and I'm saying foreground color and space. It'll load a list of colors that I do have out here. So let's say yellow. And if I just execute this right now, this is what you'll see. So this is how the output color, you can change the color of the output out here. So this is like if anyone is coming from a C background, this is like printf in C. Like when you do a print or when you want to write something out here, you'll do a write hyphen host in PowerShell out here. Okay. So let's now begin with something known as data types, which are the building blocks to any of the programming language or which are the building blocks to any of the scripting languages out here. Now let's say if I let's say want to write my name, okay, and I just don't want my name to be lying around like that. I want to store my name in a variable. Now what I'm talking about is that instead of writing my entire name, I want to make sure to call my name every time using a simple variable like X. So if I just print in X, I need to get my name. Okay. So just like when we used to do in maths, right? We said X is equal to 43, Y is equal to 54 or something like that, right? So how do I store variables in PowerShell is that I need to do a dollar. As and when I put a dollar, PowerShell will understand that I'm actually typing a variable out here. So for here, what I'll do is that I'll say dollar name. Okay. I'll say dollar name and I'll say is equal to, I'll just give my name and put it here. Okay. So what is going to happen if I execute this is that the dollar name that you see out here, it began with an empty variable. It did not have any value. But as and when I said dollar name is equal to something like in brackets Kiran and I executed it, it got assigned with this particular value called Kiran. Now let's say if I want to write my name somewhere, how do I write it? I don't have to write my entire name now. What will I do is that in order to write something, it is what guys? Write hyphen host, right? I'll do a write hyphen host and I'll say my name is, and outside the quotes out here, I'll say dollar name. So I am not writing my name everywhere. I am just calling something known as a variable that I've just declared. So if I execute this line, now if you see, it's coming as what? My name is Kiran. How did it come here? It's because this is a variable that I've initially taken and I said dollar name is equal to, in quotes, I have passed in something known as a name. And as and when I executed it, this name, right, this value got assigned to this dollar name out here. So this is called a variable assignment in PowerShell out here. Okay. And since this is just one name that I'm passing in, so it's just like, brackets and it's just like something known as Kiran out here. Since it's just one name that I'm passing here, this is known as a string. So something known as what? A string. A string is just one character out here. just one character out here, is known as a string. Now let's say there are multiple people in this particular class, and I want to store all their names somewhere. Okay, I want to store, let's say I have 3 or 4 people in this particular class out here. I want to store all their names out here. So how do I store that? Is now I am not doing a string, because string is just one name out here. That's what we kind of said, that the basic of a string is that it's just one character out here. It's just one character length out here. Now, if there are multiple strings, meaning I want to now store a collection of multiple strings, meaning a collection of multiple names out here, and a collection of strings is called an array. An array or an array list is nothing but not one string but a multiple string out here. And how do I do an array? So do you see this, guys? So in line number 6, right? So before I go ahead, in line number 6, I did a hash, and then I did a data type. As in, when you declare a hash in this particular console, PowerShell will understand that it's a comment. It's not a command, it's a comment. So I shouldn't execute it. So even though you do any, I mean, even if you execute this out, there will not be any output. Like for example, if I take this comment out, okay, if I take this comment out and I execute this out, now it's telling what the statement or a block is missing, because I have just written it that way. There is no syntax of it. I cannot write it the way I write it in a text editor. So this follows a syntax and etc. As and when I basically put something like a hash, do I need to put double hash? No. As and when I put a hash out here, and if I now execute this out, PowerShell will not just PowerShell will not consider it to be a command. It will consider it to be a comment. So comments are used to, let's say, explain someone in your command, in let's say the entire script that you're writing. Now the entire script that you're writing can anywhere go in thousands of lines also. So people need to understand what you're writing, right? So that's where I put in commands out here. And here the first data type again is what? It's a string. And I said a collection of such strings is known as what? An array list or an array. So how do I declare an array in PowerShell? So let's see. So this is all the adjustments that I can do out here, is that this will split your screen into half. Like this particular button out here will split your screen into half between the output console and the editor. And this button out here will give you the complete editing console. And this button out here will just split horizontally. So it's like a book, so you can adjust this thing out. So let me come back here and let me go to the line 13 or line 12 out here and say, how do I declare an array? Is that, let's say, I'll say name list. I can give any value here. I can say $XYZ ABC, anything, not a problem. Now I am giving a value to it called $name list, and I'll say equal to, and now I have 3 different names that I want to declare. So how do I declare it? I'll say at the rate open braces, closed braces, or open parenthesis and close parenthesis out here. This is the declaration of an array, and this right is a null array, meaning there is no value to it. So if I even execute this out, and now if I want to see what is inside the name list, how do I see that? I am just highlighting something known as $name list out here, and I'm just executing this. I don't get any value assigned to it because there is no value inside it. So it's a null array out here. And how do I now declare values inside it? So inside the open and close parenthesis out here, I will open up something like quotes. I can say Kiran, comma, different value, Mahesh, comma, Mohan, something like this. So I am giving 3 different names out here. And if I now execute this one, so I can select the entire line, or I can just put my cursor on this particular line and I can say execute this out. Now, do you see here, guys? You have something called name list is equal to Kiran, Mahesh, and Mohan. This is something that you do have right now. And if I just want to see what is the value inside it, I want to print out what is the value inside it. I can just highlight this particular thing called as a $name list. and I can just execute this out. And right now, what I get is three different names out here called Kiran, Mahesh, Mohan. Guys, good till here. String array, good till here. Any questions till here, guys? So, how do you do a variable assignment in PowerShell? All good till here. So, right now, the task that I do have right now is that yes, the dollar name list has different names like Kiran, Mahesh, and Mohan. I want to do now a printing of these names. I just won't want it to just be like plain text out here like Kiran, Mahesh, and Mohan. But I want it to be complete sentences like hi, my name is Kiran, and then hi, my name is Mahesh. Hi, my name is Mohan. Because I have three different names out here, right? So in order to print something out on the output console, what is the command, guys? Right host. Right host, right? So let's come down to the line 13 out here and I'll say right hyphen host. I can say what? My name is, what can be my name here? Sorry, name list of one, but I want to print all the names here. So I have dollar name list is equal to something like this. So if I say my name is and do a dollar name list, will this be okay? Is this okay, guys? Because dollar name list has what? Kiran, Mahesh, and Mohan. It has a value, meaning it has an array value. It has what? An array value out here with three different names out here called Kiran, Mahesh, and Mohan. And I just want to write these names out here called my name is something like this. So is this statement okay at line number 13? Like, does anyone have any issues with this? Yes, no, maybe. Okay, great. So let's do one thing. Let's execute this out. So I'm putting my cursor at again line number 13 and I'm just executing this thing out. And here I get an output something like what? My name is Kiran, Mahesh, Mohan. But this is not how I expected it to be, right? I expected it to be in a single line. Like for example, I wanted it to be something like, let's do this again. I wanted it to be something like, my name is Kiran. Let's check this out. Now let's forget this particular variable out. And the second line should talk something like, my name is Mahesh. Third line should talk something like, my name is Mohan, right? This is how I wanted it to be. And if I now execute these three lines, now how do I just execute these three lines? Is that I'll just select these three lines from 13 to 15 and I'll just say execute. And now this is the output what I was expecting. Like this is what is the output what I was expecting. So my name is Kiran, my name is Mahesh, my name is Mohan. This is the output what I'm expecting. But the output that I'm getting out here is my name is Kiran, Mahesh, Mohan. This is how I'm getting the output, which is not okay, which is not like really something that I wanted to implement and etc. So what happens out here is this. So are we good with string and array, guys? What's a string, what is an array, and etc. So let's see. Let's go to docs.microsoft.com and let's just type in right host. So I want to see something known as the syntax of this particular command. I want to understand what this command really expects from me, like as an input, what this command really expects from me. And I'd say I'll just open the screen out here. And it says, okay, fine, this is the syntax and etc. And it says, okay, fine, this is how I expect it and everything. It says right host and then object and all that stuff. And it has a lot of examples out here to how to declare things out. It says, okay, fine, right host on new line and etc. All that stuff. And it has a syntax declaration on how do you write something or how do you basically define something and etc. In short, whatever that you write here, right? my name is something like this, or my name is dollar name, it's just taking the dollar name list and just printing it out. I don't want it to do that. So dollar is a variable that is used in the PowerShell script. It's a variable notation that is used in the PowerShell script. That's what we began with. That how do you declare a variable in PowerShell? So now the issue that I do have right now is that when I do a write host and when I say my name is dollar name, what is the value in dollar name, guys? Kiran, right? So if I do this, if I just execute this, I'm able to get it properly. But when it's an array, it's now a list of names right now with me, and I want this statement to run thrice because there are what, three names out here. There are what, how many? Three names out here. So I want this statement to run three times, and each and every time it has to print, firstly it has to print the first name, second time it has to print the second name, third time it has to print the third name. That's how my script should actually behave. For which what I will do right now is that in a very simple English term, I need something like this. I need the PowerShell. Let's expand this out. So I need PowerShell to go into this loop, or I need PowerShell to go inside this particular array. So I need PowerShell to do what? To go inside the variable called dollar name list. So I have PowerShell. I need my PowerShell script to go inside dollar name list, and each time, meaning for each variable inside it, for each variable or for each value inside the name list. And you have three values. For each value inside the name list, which is an array, I want PowerShell to print out something like my name is the first value, my name is the second value, my name is the third value. This is how I want it to print out. So what I'll do in order to convert this simple English into a PowerShell script out right now, I will say at line number 15, I will do something known as a loop. These are called as looping concepts. I'll open up a loop called for each, and I'll open up something known as parenthesis out here. So open and close parenthesis, and then open and close flower brackets. This is the syntax of a for each loop. So for each, the condition, and then the statement to be executed. So in here, it's still throwing me an error. In here, what I'll say is that now I'll take a temporary variable, something like $x. I'm saying for each $x in dollar name list. What I'm doing right now is that I am now telling that, you know what, I am saying for each $x. Now, what will be the value of $x is that the first time when this loop is getting executed, the value of the $x will be the first value from this. So dollar name list contains what? All these three names. And I am doing what? A for each loop over the $x. I mean, I'm doing a for each loop over the name list. And I am now assigning a temporary variable known as $x out here. And each and every time this particular for each loop executes, the first time $x will be equal to what? Kiran, the value 1. Second time the $x will be equal to what? Mahesh. Third time the $x will be equal to what? Mohan. So three different times that I want this to execute, and each and every time the $x value is getting changed. Now since it's getting changed, what I can do right now is I can say write host my name is, what should be my name right now, guys? $x, because inside this two brackets out here between 15 and 19, my $x value is getting incremented each and every time when the loop is getting executed. So I'm saying it is $x. So firstly, I'm doing a for each loop. I am taking up temporary variable known as $x. This can be $y, $z, anything. After dollar, you can declare anything out here. And then I'm saying for each value or for each $x in $name list, I'm saying right host, my name is something like this. In order to change this color, in order to change my output, I will just say space hyphen foreground color is something like yellow. I'm just putting this out. And now what I'll do is let's delete this statement because this is not necessary here. So I'll delete this. And what I'll do right now is that I want to execute everything from line number 11 to line number 18. So I'm just highlighting everything out and I'm just running this out. Do you now see I'm getting the output the way I want it to? I have my name is Kiran, my name is Mahesh, my name is what? Mohan. This is what, or this is how I am going ahead and getting this out, right? Any questions still here, guys? Anyone who's not following anything? Any questions still here?
So this is Surya.
Sorry?
So this is Surya,
Yeah, Surya.
and we don't need any increment variable for that.
Sorry, we what?
We don't need any increment variable. For loop, we're going to
As
have increment variable.
for a
So
loop
we
known
no
as
need
for loop,
to.
you will have an increment variable, yes, but for a loop known as for each, you don't have to declare an
Yeah.
increment variable out here. What will for each
Okay,
do
sir.
is that for each right now, the number of time it
Yes.
has to execute is the count
Yes.
of this particular list known as $name list. So here the count of $name list is 3. How do I know? Because there are three
Yes,
names
sir.
out here. So
Yeah.
it will go inside it. It will take that particular value as that particular count. It will increment itself. You don't have to declare something known as an increment out here.
Okay. Okay, sir. So it is inbuilt. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any more questions here, guys? For loop usage. You can also use a for loop. We'll also see what is the use case scenario of a for loop and all. Hmm. Yes. So you will definitely see even the code and output, but let's see if you only want to see the code. Let's say write hyphen output. Now you will even see the code also because you will have the code executed again. After that, you will have the output executed out here. So you will see that one also. You will see the code also there. Right. Lots of code and etc. So what will happen is that in this particular console we are getting the code and the output again. But in the real world scenario, when you have like thousands of lines of code, right? You'll have one line at once getting executed, and you'll see the output only at there. Like we don't execute it directly using the local machine. This is for our testing. But when you execute it using something known as Azure DevOps, you know kind of get in DevOps practice, it'll make much more sense. Okay. Any more questions here, guys?
Yeah, Kiran, is
So
it
one question.
reinstalled
Sorry, 1 second. Yeah,
the
please go ahead.
PowerShell?
The count of X, like, so you just want to display the count of X as in, like, for example, this name list has that particular count, right? For example, now X doesn't have a proper count because the reason being X is a temporary variable out here. I'm making sure to change the value of X every time this loop is getting executed. So the count of X will always be 1. But let's say if you want to get the count of this particular list, what you can do is that you can say dollar name list dot count. You can do a dot count out here. If I execute it, you have a 3. So this is how I can get the count of something. Yes, sorry, someone online had a question. Sorry.
Yes, sir. Sir, in this example, we are mentioning my name is $X. So $X. I mean, it's a part of commenting area, right? So it should be typed as it does, like my name is $X,
Hmm.
without $X displaying the individual names, right? So in case if we had mentioned $X outside this commenting area, then uh, I think in that way it should display the individual names. But at this time we are mentioning my name is $X, so it's a part of the commenting area, right? So in the
Meaning
output it should be.
it's a part of the commenting area, as in you mean it's a part of this particular for each loop, like from 16 to from 15 to 20. Is that what you mean?
No, sir, I'm saying that every time it should be only displaying my name is $X, right?
Hmm.
But
No,
in case if yeah, but in case if he had mentioned $X outside this commenting area, then it should have displayed individual names. But at this time, it should only display my name is $X. That's what I'm saying.
no. So the thing is that if let's say I do a my name is $X outside this loop. Now this is the for each loop. I'm mentioning the $X inside this for each loop because I have a condition here telling that please iterate over this particular name list. So $X is being assigned the value each and every time, and this particular value is being extracted out from something known as a dollar name list out here. So $X has a value defined out here. Let's say I do a write host. My name is $X out here, outside this particular loop out here. If I just execute this out, now it has my name is Mohan. The reason being this $X, right? It went ahead thrice. First time it got a value known as what? Kiran. Second time it got a value known as what? Mahesh. Third time it got a value known as what? Mohan. And it got executed. And third time, after the third time, right? It exited out from the loop. And it had a value known as Mohan with it. It stored a value known as Mohan with it. That's the reason when I'm printing this out, you're getting something known as what? Mohan out here. But let's say if this is not $X, let's say if this is $Y, and I change this here to $Y also, and this to $Y also. Now outside this loop, if I execute it, what should be the value of this, guys? Okay, let's see this. I'm not getting anything. $Y is not defined. I have not defined $Y anywhere in my script. So if you look at this entire script, right, I have not done a $Y is equal to something. So it's what? A null value. It doesn't have anything. But if I take the same $Y in this particular loop and I'm saying for each $Y in name list, and I'm now executing this out, it is getting assigned a value. Each and every time the loop is running, it's getting assigned a value. So this $Y holds good, or this $Y actually makes sense when I write it inside this particular quotes from 17 to 22, because I'm doing a for each inside it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Sir, one more thing. Can you just keep this $Y outside the this commenting session and
I
write
did keep
code?
it outside. In this tree, I have not put it inside this particular section. Now for each loop starts from this particular line, so it's outside this loop. Okay, outside the quotes, is it?
Yes, yes, yes. Yes.
It will still basically give you something. So if I do this again, it'll still give you a value. So irrespective whether it's inside the quotes, outside the quotes, it's okay. The value would be resolved. So this is actually
Okay.
not a commenting section, but this is a quote. This is actually my condition.
Okay, sir. Got it.
So Kiran, in from
Just a
line number
second.
17 to 21, we will have
Right.
to first give the condition and then again write the host, the output which we want, or we can do
Correct.
the either way.
So we'll have firstly have to write the condition. So this is the syntax. So whenever you want to write it inside the for each loop, you'll have to do a for each, open and close parenthesis,
Mm-hmm.
the condition out here, which is $X in name list, sorry, $Y in name list, and then the statement that you want to execute or the code that you
Okay.
want to execute out here.
Okay. So if we have multiple conditions, likewise, we'll have to open the brackets and then close it for the multiple brackets as well, right?
If you have multiple conditions, yes. If you have multiple conditions, likewise, you can open a for each inside a for each again. So you can do a for each within a
Yeah.
for each. So you can achieve
Okay.
that
So
also.
you mean to say that for each again and again in line 18 again we'll have to give for each there,
If you have a
or
condition,
is it a
something like that. Like if you have
yes?
a condition, something like that. But let's say if I do not have a condition wherein I want to, just have a for each loop out here, I just want something like I want to print another statement out here telling that I am inside the for each. I did not give any for each loop again. I'm just executing this particular statement. Now, can anyone tell me what is going to happen now?
I'm inside.
Line number 19 will execute first, line number 20 will execute next. It will have thrice. So instead of 3 lines here, you'll find what? 6 lines. So if I just execute this now do you see what is happening? So it said
Yeah.
for the first for each, it printed these two things. I am inside the for each. For the second time, it again printed these two things. Third time, it again printed these two things out here. So you can have n number of things out here inside the same for each.
One more question here. Now, likewise, in the name list, can we copy and paste the data as the name list has three names only here? What if we have n number of names here? So can
Mhm.
we copy and paste it here in the script?
Like you have a number of name lists out here. I mean, where do you have the name list
Yes.
exactly?
Like for an example, you have given it as Kiran, Mahesh, and Mohan there.
Right,
So
right,
they're just three names. You have typed it. But for an
right.
example, if we have 50 names or 25 names as
Yes,
such, so
yes.
we will have to type in all the 25 names, or is it that we can copy and paste it here?
You can do a copy and paste out here. But whenever you do a copy and paste, right, we'll have to make sure that these are comma separated values. When you are giving it inside an
Okay.
array, this should be a comma separated values. You can just copy and paste it out, not a problem. If you do a copy and paste in a comma separated format, it will accept it. You don't
Okay.
have to write it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so you had a question that if I execute line 15 right now, only 15. So can anyone tell me if I execute line 15, what should be the value inside it? My name is Mohan should come. The reason being, now if I execute this out, now we did execute line number 15 earlier and it came something like this. You do not have anything. This is where I executed line number 15. It did not have any value because $y doesn't have any value as such. But what happened now is that I executed this loop. First time, what happened when the loop got executed? $y became something like Kiran because that was the first value. Second time when I executed it, the value of $y changed to what? Mahesh, because that is the second value inside it. Third time it executed, I had $y is equal to what? Mohan. After I executed this out, it came out of the loop. There is nothing else for it to do right now. And now $y is still at Mohan. If I now execute this out, $y will be my name is what? Mohan. So $y will not have any, I mean, will have this particular value out here. Right. Hmm. So right now, what is happening is that I am not running the compiler the way it should. Meaning, I am making sure to run or I'm making sure to do a selective execution. I'm what I'm doing is that I'm initially executing the line 1, coming to line 3, executing that again, going back to line 1. what happens right now is that it will store the data. Now, if I execute it at one go, it will execute one line after the other. For example, if I want to execute the entire script right now, right, I can just come here and click on this button, which is called run script, F5. Now it will run the entire thing. If it did run the entire thing, this is how the output will actually look like. It said PS version table hello world 3, and then my name is Mohan because the value is already stored, and then my name is Mohan and all that stuff. And then it says I'm inside the for each loop, my name is Kiran, and etc. This is how it went ahead and printed things out. If you want to refresh the memory, like let's say if you want to nullify that particular value, you'll just have to assign it is equal to null. You just have to make sure that it's null value out there. So let's do one more thing out here. Now we have printed this out, great, not a problem. I am getting something like my name is Mahesh, my name is Mohan and everything. Now I also want to do one more thing. I have three different names. I would like to say something like my name is Kiran, I am from Hyderabad. My name is Mahesh, I am from Mumbai. And my name is Mohan, I am from Bangalore. With name and the place also, meaning I am not now looking at one array. I'm looking at two different arrays. I'm looking at what? Two different arrays. Let's see how can I work with this particular object right now. So I have this name list. So I'll just copy it down here so that it's clear. So I'm coming here, I'm just copying it out here, and I'll say location. I'll say equal to at the rate something like Hyderabad HYD, Mumbai MUM, Bangalore BN, something like this. I'm just writing two different names, or I'm just writing two different array list out here. Now both are array list out here, and there is something that PowerShell does in the backend. Now, in order to store this array, just like we have a textbook, right? When you basically open a textbook or any book out there, the first thing that you'll see is the index, as in which page, what is there, and etc. In the same way, PowerShell does something known as an indexing out here. Like PowerShell stores all these values in the form of something known as index numbers. How does that PowerShell store? Is that if I look at an array called name list, there is something known as a place value out here. In this array, the place 0 is occupied by Kiran, 1 is occupied by Mahesh, 2 is occupied by Mohan. This is how PowerShell indexes something known as a values out here. Now let's say if I just want to write one particular value known as, I just want to do my name is Kiran. That's it. I just want to do this. So I'll say write host. My name is. Will come out of the bracket and I'll say dollar name list contains all these values, but I just need the first value out here. I know that the first value is stored in an index known as 0. How do I index into the list? Is that I open up a square bracket and I say 0. I open up a square bracket and I say 0. If I just execute this line right now, what am I getting? My name is what? Kiran. Now let's do one thing. If I take this out and put 3, what should I get, guys? My name is Mohan. No? Yes, no?
It should be blank.
It should be a
No,
null
not
value.
null value.
Yeah.
Null value. It will be a null value because there are the index value until here. It's just 0, 1, and 2. That's it. There are only 3 values out here. Until this point, there is nothing but called a fourth value out here. So if I want to, let's say, print, so it won't throw error because it's a null value. It's getting a null there. Beyond the index, it won't throw error because these are not fixed arrays. This is not a fixed array, so it won't throw an error there. So if you do a dollar name list even 100, this is going to tell you that there is nothing there. So it's just going to tell you that there is nothing out there. So if I say, if I now want to print Mahesh, then what should be the index value out here, guy? 1. So I have a 1 year. So let's do one more thing out here. I'll say right host, my name is something like this. And I also want to tell that right host, I am from so and so place. I'll say dollar location 1 because Mahesh belongs to Mumbai. So if I just execute these two things out here, now I'll say my name is what? Mahesh. I am from what? Mumbai. So using this concept, now what do I need right now is that something like this. This is good, great, not a problem, but I need this to be iterated again, meaning every time I execute it, the first time it executes, it should take the value 0. Second time it executes, it should take the value 1. Third time it executes, it should take the value 2. So I need statements something like this. So if I now execute this out, I'm getting the right thing. My name is Kiran. I am from Hyderabad. My name is Mahesh. I am from Mumbai. My name is Mohan. I am from Bangalore. This is what I'm getting. This is the proper syntax of what I'm getting out here. But how do I now automate it? Meaning this is all manual. Let's say I have 3 names. I was able to write this way. But let's say I have thousands of names. Then how do I write it? Right? For which I'll again fall back on a looping concept out here. And this time I will be using a loop known as for loop. Because for loop use case scenario, this is the best way to use a for loop out here. So what do I do out here is that I'll say for. Now how do I declare a for loop is that I firstly need to declare a condition out here. So what I'll do is that I'll say for dollar $I. I'll open up something known as a dollar $I, an empty variable, and I'll say is equal to 0 because my loop is starting from 0. And I will say put a semicolon out here, and I'll say if dollar $I is less than 3 or less than 2 because this is 0 1 and 2 3 times dollar I should execute what less than what 3 times out here. So how do I declare a less than out here is that give a space and say hyphen, and you have a lot of conditions. All these are known as comparators. You can say or and all these things. I want to say it is less than lt less than 2, or since is the count is 3, right? So I'll say less than 3. I'll again put a semicolon, and now I should say that you know what dollar I should increment every time this loop is getting executed. Dollar I should increment every time. I'll say dollar I plus plus, or you can also put it something like I plus 1. Anything is okay. I'm saying dollar I plus plus, meaning initially what? So let's open up again. So this is how the syntax is. Initially the value of dollar I is beginning what from what? 0. I'm assigning a value known as 0 out here. Then I am saying dollar I is what? Less than 3, which is a condition, which is a comparator. Then I'm saying I plus plus, meaning until this condition is satisfied, please make sure this loop is executed. Please make sure this loop is executed n number of times until this condition is satisfied. Now what I can say is right host, my name is, now I will say what? It's name list, right? All the names are in what? Name list. Now what do I put it in the bracket, guys? Dollar I. So it is dollar I what I put in here because I'm using dollar I as my variable, which can give me 0 first time, second time 1, third time 2, and etc. So I'll do what? A dollar I out here. So inside the index, I'm declaring something known as a dollar I. And after this, I'll again say right host, I am from, again dollar location, brackets dollar I. And now if I now execute this out, I'm getting the same thing, right? But right now, I have just written it twice and I'm getting like about 6 lines of code that is getting printed out here. This is how I am controlling this out. Now, if I say it is less than 4, let's say I want to give a different condition here. I'll say less than 4. And what should happen here, guys? Can anyone tell me? Now, if the condition is less than 4, the first time I is getting executed, I value will be what? 0. Condition will execute, yes, it will. Second time, I value will be what? 1. Third time, I value will be what? 2. Condition is still getting satisfied. Third time, fourth time, I value will be what? 3. Condition is still getting satisfied. It will again execute, and now it will give you a blank array, or it will give you a blank name out here. Now it executed the third time, and here do you see my name is blank, location is blank. Why did this happen, guys? Null value, null value again. So I
As
have
we have only
iterated.
3 names and 3 locations.
Exactly, I have 3 and 3 locations out here, and the index value is something like 0, 1 and 2. 3 is not there. So this value, right, is something that I'm not really sure about. I'm not really sure that what this value is really, because let's say if someone puts another name like Rakesh, I am from Pune, and my value here was 3 and it still is 3. If I now execute this out, it is printing great, not a problem, but it is not considering Rakesh and Pune and everything, right? Meaning this is a static array, or this is, let's say, a static loop what I've done here. So what I will do right now is that instead of making this static, I'll do it dynamic by telling is dollar name list dot count. I wanted to take the count from the array list, or from the, let's say, the array that I've declared out here. So I want to take the count there, and I'll say now I'll execute this out. Now I am getting Rakesh, and I'm getting also something known as Pune out here. Okay. Any questions here, guys? Any questions till this point? Two for each is out there. You'll have to do 2 for eaches inside it. So you can club them into a single line. You can do that. That's not a problem. Hmm. So in this place, is it? So what will happen is that now let's say I do this. So this is what your condition is, and I'll say this is location dot count, and I am doing this particular thing out here, and I'll just execute this out. Do you see until where it printed? Mohan, Bangalore, because what? Bangalore is the last value what it knows, and it's taking that count. It's omitted something known as Rakesh out here. It's omitted something known as Rakesh out here. So for doing this, you need to have equal arrays out here. Like you need to have, like, equal arrays things out here. Any questions here, guys? So fixed array is that, so you have a different concept known as an array list. So how do you write an array list and all that stuff? So fixed array is something that has a fixed count. Meaning if I say it is 3, it should only be 3. You cannot add multiple things into it. If you add multiple things, it will fail. Okay, that's a fixed array and a flexible array. LT. So less than is LT. Hyphen LT is less than. Hyphen LE is less than or equal to. GT is greater than. GE is less than, greater than or equal to. If let's say I want to put an equal to, then it's hyphen EQ. Hyphen EQ out here. All these are known as comparators. Any further questions here, guys? Now, these are the basics of it. Like, I just want to start with the basics of it. Now, how do we take these basics and use it for Azure PowerShell? That is an important concept, or that is something that we'll have to see. Is that these are the very basics of it, great. But how can I take these basics and how can I apply it to something known as Azure? Because that's what I'm really focused upon. Is that how can I create resources in Azure? How can I manage my resources in Azure using or leveraging a language known as PowerShell? Now, in order to interact with Azure, right, this particular PowerShell console cannot directly interact with Azure. It cannot go ahead and directly interact with Azure. You need to install something known as Azure modules. What are modules? Simple. Module is a set of language that will help PowerShell communicate with Azure. For example, what are the modules that I'm talking about out here? Is that I'm talking about something specific known as AZ module. So if I say install AZ module PowerShell, you have a documentation on how to do it. In here, you have multiple things like what is AZ module and everything. You have all these things known as set execution policy and all that stuff. But how do you do it? So for that, I have just have a different. I mean, I in my machine, in my laptop, I have all the modules got installed and everything. So I just opened up something known as a virtual machine. We'll look at this concept in great detail on what virtual machines are and everything. But this machine doesn't have any modules and etc. installed on top of it. So the very first thing that I'll check is firstly the version of PowerShell that I do have. So it is what dollar $PS version table. So I'll just type in, let's say dollar $PS version table. And once I execute this, the dollar $PS version is 5.1 compatible. Second thing, what I'll do out here is every PowerShell console comes with something known as an execution policy. Like what do you want to execute? How do you execute it? Whether can you execute a script or not? In my case, in order to install PowerShell, I need my execution policy to be on something known as unrestricted. So firstly, how do I get my execution policy or how do I see my execution policy out here? Is by using a command known as get. If I want to get anything in PowerShell, I'll do what? A get command out here. I'll say get hyphen execution policy out here. And if I now execute this out, my execution policy is set at something known as remote sign. I would like to change it to something known as unrestricted. And if I want to change it to unrestricted, guys, very important, please open PowerShell as an administrator. How do you open PowerShell again as an administrator? Let's come back again. Very simply, please just type in PowerShell out here. And in here, you will have PowerShell ISE. Just say run as administrator. Okay, just do a run as administrator out here. And once you get in here, I want to now change the execution policy to unrestricted. How do I change it? I'll say set hyphen, execution policy space hyphen execution policy to something known as unrestricted. And once I execute this out, it says, do you want to set it to unrestricted? I said, yes, I want to set it to unrestricted. Now I execute this again. I have something known as an unrestricted policy set out here. Okay. Finally, after this is done, what I want you all to do is firstly get execution policy. I mean, to begin with, see the version table, get the execution policy. If it is not unrestricted, please change it to unrestricted. And after that, please say install hyphen module. I want to install a module out here, space hyphen name space az modules is something that I want to install, and then say execute this out again. Now it will go ahead, and for this to execute, right, you need your system to be connected to the internet. like a decent internet speed is good enough, and you'll have a couple of prompts like this saying that you know what you want to execute it. I'll say yes, and it will go ahead and install something known as an Azure module on your systems. This is what I want you all to try out. Okay, so please do this, guys, because from tomorrow we'll get started with Azure PowerShell, and then you'll get something like, you know what, this is an untrusted repository. Are you okay? 5.1. That's what I began with. So it is $PS version table 5.1. Okay, so this is how we install it. How do I get this to this particular screen? Again, just Google out telling install Azure modules, install AZ module PowerShell, and the first article will talk about how do you install AZ module out here. You can also do a Google search. Please, I would recommend to kind of visit this particular documentation out here, and will tell you how to the installation is done and etc. Okay. Any questions here, guys? Okay, so if there are no further questions, we're good to close, guys. Please install this out and let me know if you have any issues with this. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.